morning. This is Jay Rovert, founder and director of the R&B Group, a well-known networking group known throughout the United States. And as part of our interview series, I'm thrilled to have Shawn Flynn, a principal at Global Capital Markets in Silicon Valley and a host of a very well-known podcast also in the Silicon Valley. Shawn, good morning.
Jay, thank you for having me be here. But I think your group is actually known international. I mean, I've met some people from Canada there as well, so don't be too modest there.
Well, you're the one helping us out. I mean, now with our Israeli contacts and everything. So I appreciate everything you've been doing. And that's the reason we're doing this podcast. Besides you being an interesting guy, you've shown that you're an absolute team player. You know, everybody comes to these networking groups and says they all play fair. That's still a minority who really come in and saying, you know what, I'm going to really contribute because I think down the road it's going to help me and the group. So thank you. Shawn, where were you born? Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in the East Bay in a small town called Danville that really developed during the whole dot-com bubble in Silicon Valley. And I grew up there, had a pretty interesting childhood. I'm not sure if you want me to go into too much detail, but basically, my dad had a pharmacy. I was able at age 7 to start working there after school and on the weekends, helping out. And I got a lot of life lessons from that. I mean, I remember one time in particular, one of the most impactful moments of my life was this gentleman pulls up in a nice BMW, nice suit, nice watch, everything. I thought this guy had everything in the world. He's talking to my dad. And then next thing you know, my dad turns to me and goes, he'll be dead in 6 months. And
Wow.
I just my face dropped, and I was probably 9 at that time, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, "What?" He's like, "Oh, the medicine he got. He's in bad shape. He's not going to be around much longer. But nice guy, nice guy." And that really changed my perspective of values in life, relationships, money, everything from an early age. So I had a lot of lessons growing up with my family that I'm really fortunate to have,
Sure.
and also growing up where I did, I saw the whole dot-com bubble and bust. I had the
Yes.
friends in high school. A lot of them, not a lot, but there were some that said, I'm not going to go to off to college. I'm going to work at my dad's startup.
Yep.
And in the year 2000, some of us work hard, go to college. 2001, we come back and there's a for sale sign in front of some of these people's houses.
Right.
And it was also crazy in high school because you knew whose parents were in tech because they drove the brand new Mustang to class, and then there's these other people biking to school. It was such an interesting area.
Yeah. Talk about racial conflicts among white people.
Oh God. Well,
Yeah.
luckily we were a very diverse school.
Yeah.
There was that's 30% Asian, majority were Caucasian, but all different backgrounds. A lot of people, parents were immigrants to the Bay Area, especially because of
Sure.
Silicon Valley. So you got a lot of life lessons from all these places around the world, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
and you're always curious when you're hearing stories of, oh, where did this person come from? What's their background? Hey, I want to go there. And hearing those stories really gave me ideas for later in life.
Sure. Sure. Uh, Tell us about high school, sports, socially, academics. Just give us a brief review of how was high school? What did you learn from high school and then going to college?
Well, high school, I did cross country and track. At
Yeah.
least freshman year, I did wrestling a little bit, but I was so tiny, everyone just literally beat the hell out of me. I didn't last too long there. I weighed in at, this just puts in perspective. Freshman year, the lowest weight category is 103 pounds. I weighed in at 92 for
Wow.
the first match and only match. So I didn't last long. Um, but I worked hard. I was very studious. I was
Sure.
in all the academic groups. Actually, at that time, I kind of wanted to get away from this town because, in my mind, it was so boring. So I worked hard in order to get to a good college, and I went to the furthest college away in state. I went to UCSD,
Yeah.
University of California, San Diego. I picked mechanical engineering based on my pole vault coach from high school. He worked at Lawrence Livermore Lab, and he would always tell us, "I'm working on these cool things, but I can't tell you about it because it's top secret." And it got me really interested. I was like, "Okay, what's going on, and what can these engineers build?"
Sure.
And when I went to college, I mean, I went undeclared, but after taking some initial classes, I went, I want to do engineering. It's a challenge. I
Yep.
want this challenge. I want to see how far I can go. But the whole time I was in college, I got to see all my friends go abroad and study abroad for a semester.
Yeah.
And I want to do the same thing, but I couldn't because of engineering. Because if you take that time off, you're not going to graduate in time. It's such a
Right.
difficult major. So
Right.
the entire time I was there, I kept thinking, I want to go abroad. The first chance I get to go abroad, I'm going to take that opportunity. And I got that right after I graduated.
But serendipity. But maybe you made that happen. You know, you were sending out the right vibes. So, what made you pick Costa Rica?
Well, a funny story behind that, I actually had a friend in the Peace Corps,
Yep.
and not to go into too much detail, but basically, um, you know, she had a girlfriend there, and the local in that culture, it's that type of relationship is it's not open. It's not as open as it is in the States. So she asked, come down to Costa Rica for a little while.
Yep.
You're unemployed, you just graduated, you're not doing anything, and you could be, my pretend boyfriend, more or less. So then that all the locals will leave us alone because they just thought
Sure.
they were cousins hanging out. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So I went to Costa Rica. I learned, well, one, I didn't speak Spanish at the time. So I went
You didn't
there.
speak Spanish at the time.
No, no. Spanish was the
That's,
most difficult subject for me in high school. It was the only subject I got A's in everything but Spanish.
yep.
And it was so challenging for me, just a different language. And I went there and I fully engulfed myself in the culture and the language. I would study in the morning, and then in the after I go hiking in the afternoon. Then at night, once everyone got back from working the farms, because this is where the Peace Corps is. It's not a
Sure.
nice area. I mean, everyone's making less than $1 an hour.
Yep.
Well, actually, a lot less than that for picking berries and stuff like that. It's a grueling area. Um, I would practice or try to say the words I learned that day on the hike,
Right.
and I would just sit there for hours listening to people in the park talk. On occasion, be like, "Está bien, bien, bien," and
And
of course, everyone made fun of me because I didn't know what I was saying. So I would say like "C" to like the most ridiculous things that later I
sure.
learned what I was saying "C" to. But that got me out of my shell because in college I was, an engineer nerd, more or less. A lot of math, a lot of computers, head down. I was a little social, but not like I am now. I didn't have confidence to just go up to
Yeah.
random strangers,
It's,
but you had to then because you had no
it,
one else to talk to.
yeah. It's amazing how that happens because I was a carbon copy. And Sean, following up on Costa Rica, what took you to China?
Well,
What a switch that is.
well, when I was in Costa Rica, it was very interesting because one of the areas of a lot of the economy there is call centers. And the call centers there, they speak Spanish and English, but they're
Yeah.
actually starting to bring in Chinese call centers and teach people their Chinese in the hopes that these call centers could speak to half the world's population. And I looked at this, I was like, oh my gosh, China's starting to take over. And this is, 2005, 2006, 2007 time.
Yes.
And I went, okay, I don't want this journey to end because, I mean, Jay, I know you've traveled. You learn more in a year abroad than I did at all, my entire time at the university by far. I couldn't believe how much you learn every day from experiencing different cultures, different languages, just everything. It's just knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. And I wanted that journey to continue. So came back to the US for a short amount of time, saved up some money. Then I went to China before the 2008 Olympics in hopes I'd be there for that.
Yeah.
Little story behind that, but I really want to do everything I did in Costa Rica, learn the language, learn the culture, get friends, start a little side business, all this stuff. I want to do all that I thought 2 years Costa Rica, I'll do that 1 year in China. It was the exact opposite.
Yeah. Well, my thing was my year abroad was going to Tulane University and learning Southern, which was a totally different dialogue. So, getting back to you, so tell us, what did you actually do in China? What did you learn? The types of people you met? That's what I'm really fascinated about.
So China was the biggest challenge of my life by far. It's not a different country, it's a different world.
Yes.
Literally everything from, I mean, the language, the writing, everything. It's not, you look at a sign, you can spell it out, or say, okay, I think you either know it or you don't, or you kind of guess. The culture itself, it was just so challenging. When I was there, I learned the language. I started off, and just like Spanish or Costa Rica, I didn't know anything. China was the same. I started off at a language school. I was in the A00 class, which meant I couldn't even say hello. I learned to do basic reading and writing. My listening got good. I mean, towards the end of it, I could, go through basic contracts and understand everything, but I could easily negotiate contracts. But I
Interesting.
started a couple companies. Two failed, one did good. The one that did good, I had a only was able to succeed because of the two failures before that and the lessons I learned about the business culture there and how things are
Yeah.
done. And that one that succeeded kind of set me up for the rest of my life up to this point. My partner bought me out. I came back to the US and I got involved in the startup ecosystem based on that knowledge that I gained from that company. I mean, we went from nothing, just me and a partner, to we had 15 employees, we had multiple offices, we had operations in three different provinces, and just that journey of growth and challenge and writing out things and
Sure.
planning and marketing, sales, all how to allocate everything. I used that when I came to back to Silicon Valley and was in the startup ecosystem. From there, I got to meet a bunch of angel investors. I started volunteering at the angel group because I wanted to more or less pick the minds of all these angel investors. I wanted to sit down and listen to how they analyze companies, their thoughts. And I almost looked at it as every time I was in one of these meetings as taking a class in an MBA program, because you had these people and that
Yeah.
guy's worth 100 million,
Yeah.
that guy's worth 50 million, that guy's had three exits, that guy, and you're
And
just listening to their
and
thoughts.
Sean, how did you feel talking to those people? You're in your middle 20s. I
Oh
mean,
God.
I'm just trying to even I can't even put myself in your shoes. That had to be such an experience. You're talking to people you read about, you see them on TV, you read about them in Forbes or all these magazines. How did that feel? How did I talk to me?
Well, going back to Costa Rica, I was so intimidated to talk to people in language I didn't know. Same thing here. I was
Yeah,
trying to talk to people in a complete foreign language. And you know what the good thing was is they actually liked me because I made them laugh.
yeah,
I remember one time, so I was doing reports on a company would come in, present, I'd do a 1 or 2 page report. And I gave it to this one guy who's an angel investor that's he invested in a couple companies, he had a couple of exits, high net worth individual. And a couple days later I see him again, he's like, Sean, that report you did was amazing. I was like, really? I thought I did a good job too. He's like, we were talking about that all night. We got some
wow.
drinks. We were talking. And I was like, really? He's like, we have never laughed so hard in our life. Oh my God, you missed this. You missed that. And he went off on all these things. And I went, oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, man. But it was the best lesson learned because I'll
Best
never forget
education.
any of what he told me.
That's right.
And
And yeah,
And so, yes, it was very intimidating for at least the first 6 months. I was very hesitant to speak up in that, but over time, actually, a lot of the investors and some of them used the Angel Group as a funnel for their VC funds. They would come up to me and go, Sean, use any company you like, just present them to me. I trust you. And it was
wow.
over time that I was like, wow, I'm actually analyzing these, I'm getting good at it. And from that, it introduced me to um, the next company I was business development, then head of incubation for a company. It was based in Beijing, but they had 15 incubators, 25 offices global, focused on artificial intelligence and blockchain and that early stage seed to A round tech and helping them set up operations in different parts of the world. And with my background of travel and languages, I was a perfect fit for it. And
Yeah,
from that, I was making a lot of introductions to investment bankers and VCs and private equities. And, that brought me towards global capital markets, which is
yeah,
the investment bank I'm currently at.
sure. So why don't you talk about a couple projects, either anonymously or however you'd word it, but that you're working on now that you feel symbolizes where we're going in this industry.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail on any. I'd rather just
Yeah,
talk about. I mean, there's so much happening right now. I mean, we were working with a cybersecurity company with COVID and the pandemic. I mean, that
right,
whole industry really changed when you had all these people going from an office to now working remotely. There's so many more
yeah,
attack points, and we were seeing so much excitement for this industry and all those pivots from investors thinking, okay, before I was investing with this investment thesis, but that thesis no longer exists, or it's been
right.
changed so much with this new
Yeah,
stay at home mentality of having employees here some of the time or over there, or just the way that people are visualizing the future of work and trying to plan and invest for it. So we've seen that. We've seen conversations about some people, different age groups, thinking maybe it's time to exit their company. And hey, I'm kind of concerned about possible tax implications and that
yeah,
because government policies changing. And it's just exciting to see how many
sure.
conversations are coming up with people's thoughts and opinions because we're in we're in a time that you can't look back in
Yeah,
history and really go, oh,
sure.
this is a model from then that will work now.
No,
No one's knows what's happening.
no,
It's just you take the knowledge you have,
yeah,
you try to come up with a theory, a thesis, and then try to implement. And it's exciting. I mean, it depends, I guess, how you look at the world
yeah,
and things, but there's a lot of people that say there's never been more opportunity. There's other people that are saying this is doom and gloom, and then
yeah.
there's other people in the middle just trying to get everyone to talk. So it's interesting.
I still remember somebody telling me they're going to send me a report about something, about something I was following and everything. And I was waiting for it. I assumed this was like 1999. I thought it was going to come in the mail. I didn't realize it was emailed to me 5 minutes ago. And it was like 100-page report. It was so shocking to me that this could happen. It was like Star Wars or something. I mean, it was just a whole new reality. So, Shawn, so again, here we are today. You're part of the R&B group. You've been coming. We really value your attendance and the introductions you're making. They've been absolutely fantastic, flawless introductions to us. But tell us somebody, speak on a couple of subjects, just a little bit about where you are today, what you're looking for in terms of your networking, and what you think of our group and why it's worth your time.
Well, the group itself, I mean, I'm based in Silicon Valley. My network is mostly here. I don't have that big of a network in the East Coast, but because of Jay's group, in just literally a meeting, more or less, I have all these connections that it just expands opportunities. And that's what I really liked. And not only that is sometimes I've noticed with other groups, the follow-up's not there.
Yeah,
Whereas this group, it's the opposite. It's almost like, oh my gosh, I gotta block off too much in my calendar for these follow-ups. So it's pretty exciting. And everyone's background is absolutely astonishing. It's the who's who's. So I'm actually very proud that Milano was introduced me to Jay that
yes.
allowed me to attend the events. And so that's the power of tribes or the power of families or groups or that just exponentially impacts whatever people are doing, and that collective just makes it a win-win for everyone. So that's why I'm so excited about it. For my
Well,
oh,
Sean, thank you so much for taking time of your schedule to do this. And we've really, myself personally, I've really appreciated you coming, getting to know you. The people I'm talking to now through your network, I would never have met in a million years.
oh,
And they're the types of people that other people who've been coming to our events for years are going to want to meet. So that's what this is all about. You know, the only thing I always ask people who've been coming, play fair. And when somebody asks me what that means, I know that's not a guest. You know, just play fair, make the world go round. And so that's how it's happening. So happy to have you here and that you're going to be on our website and other places. So people are going to know that high quality, interesting people and worldly people who are coming to our events. So I want to thank you very, very much for taking your time. I know what a busy day this is for you. So thank you so very much.
Jay, thank you. It's an honor to be a guest on your show, and it's an honor to be a part of your group. So thank you.